How's it going? I'm Joe with National Home Warranty, and today we're going to be talking about body language. Now, the cool thing about body language is they've actually done studies, okay? And the studies had to do with effective communication. Okay? So what I mean by effective communication is, what do people adhere to the best? What gets people to listen to you, right? And there's three categories that they tested. The first one was the words that you use. The second was the tonality. So this would be like paraverbal stuff, like voice inflections, raising your voice, lowering your voice. The third was your body language. And what they found is that the words that we use in communication are only 10% of effective communication. Tonality is 30%. Body language is 60%. Okay? Now, this is crazy to think about, because I always thought that the words that I used and the way that I said the words was the best way to communicate effectively. But it turns out that that's not true. The way to communicate effectively is through body language. And that's exactly why we've broken it up for this video. Okay? So there's good body language and there's bad body language. So let's break those down really quick. If you remember from the last video, we were talking about when we first knock on a door. So this is a little peephole, right? When we first knock on a door, the customer's going to look through the peephole and they're going to judge us, right? They're going to think, who's this guy knocking on my door, and is it someone that I want to talk to? Okay? So there's a couple things that we want to do when we know that they're looking at us through the peephole. Okay? So let's write this as good body language. I'm just going to put BL for body language. Okay? Now the first thing we want to do is let's think about this. Can you see right here?
Barely.
Can you see right here?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So if this is the door, okay? I go up, I knock on the door. First thing I want to do is I want to take a couple steps back. What I do is I like to go about 6 to 7 feet back, and I stand a little bit sideways, like a 45-degree angle from the door. Now the reason for that is, well, think about it. If I knock on your door and I'm standing like head on, shoulder to shoulder with you, it's a little confrontational. If I stand sideways a little bit, you can see both sides of me very clearly. You can see the street behind me, and it's not as confrontational. So the first thing we want to do in good body language is we want to stand back from the door. And we want to stand 45-degree angle from door. Okay, we don't want to be confrontational. Okay. Now the next thing we want to do is when I knock on the door. Let me grab my iPad. I stand back. I'm on an angle. Is I want them to make eye contact with me first. I don't want to be looking at them like this, because then that's kind of creepy. Now, if I look preoccupied, I'm like playing on my iPad or on my binder, whatever I have in my hands, or even if I'm just looking up in the sky, if I allow them to see me first, it'll make them feel more comfortable. Okay, does that make sense? Let them see you first. Okay? We're gonna have another video talking about what to do when they open the door, and we'll dive into a whole lot more. But for right now, just know body language is the most effective way to communicate. And good body language from when you first knock on the door would be stand back from the door, stand at an angle from the door, and let them see you first. How's it going? I'm Joe with National Home Warranty, and we're going to do another video about body language. Now, if you remember from the first video about body language, we talked about how it actually constitutes, I think would be the word, 60% of effective communication. Okay, and that's why we're going to have a couple of videos just on body language, just because it's so important. Okay, now when it comes to body language, there's two types of body language. And I'm sure I'm just going to put BL again for body language. And I'm sure you know what those are. There's closed body language, and there's open body language. Okay? Easiest way to differentiate between the two Closed body language has anything about closing yourself off. So if I cross my arms, this is closed body language. If I cross my legs even, that's closed body language. The reason that we call it closed is because your internal organs are right here in your belly, and if I'm doing anything to cover them up, to close them off, it comes off subconsciously as a way of protecting yourself. That you seem nervous or that you're guarding yourself for some reason whatsoever, okay? So that's closed body language. Open body language is the opposite. Everything I do is very open. When I do hand gestures, I never go across my body. I'm not afraid of protecting myself whatsoever. I'm allowing myself to be vulnerable to whoever I'm talking to, and they will be able to sense that, okay? That's the quick closed body language, open body language. Now, the way it relates to door-to-door sales is when we knock on the door, everything that we do is going to be open body language, okay? For example, going off of a quick role play. So I knock on the door, I stand back, I'm at an angle to the door, because I don't want to square it off, so I'm at an angle. I'm looking down so they can see me first. They will say, "Hey, how's it going?" "Hey, how's it going?" I'm Joe with Home Warranty. Right now, I'm making eye contact with them. Okay? Whenever we're talking to a prospect, we're going to want to make sure that we make eye contact with that prospect. Notice my hand. Whenever I speak, I never use one finger. I always use multiple fingers, and I always use an open hand. This is very confrontational. This is very confrontational. Don't do that. An open hand or using multiple fingers or even like a little gun, way less confrontational. So that's what we're going to do. When we talk about the neighbors, hey, you know your neighbor Mark, right? Do you know Kaimana as well? Do you know Zach? He's doing the camera work right now. Open hand, not confrontational. Confrontation, okay? Another thing we do is whenever I point at the neighbors, I always do it so it's not across my body, okay? So, Mark, right? I'm never going to do something like this. You know Mark over there, right? It's always open. I'm never going to cross my body. You know Mark and Zach, right? Okay? Let's make some notes of this. So, open body language. It's going to be never across body. Another good thing to note when we're talking about body language is we never want it to be too fast as well. If I'm pointing and I'm talking to you, I'm like, "Hey man, how's it going? I'm Joe. Do you know your neighbor over there?" You know what I mean? Don't do that. People think you're like a spaz or something. It's very slow and it's controlled. Whenever we do anything with our body during a pitch, it's also planned out. Okay? So what I mean by that is just like we need to memorize a pitch or like the outline that we say, we also need to memorize when to use the body language that we use. For example, when I knock on the door, I know that I'm going to be standing about 6 to 7 feet back. I know that I'm going to be at a 45-degree angle. I have it planned out. It's second nature. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to think about looking at my iPad when I'm standing back waiting for them to answer the door. It's planned out. Everything I do has a reason, and there's a purpose behind everything I do. Everything I do has a reason, okay? Now, it's very slow. What I mean by that is kind of like we saw. if I say to you, "Hey man, how's it going? I'm with Home Warranties. Do you know Mark over there?" It doesn't have a good flow. It doesn't show confidence. It shows that you're rushed. So the better way would be, "Hey man, how's it going? I'm with National Home Warranty. I'm sure you know your neighbor Mark over there, right? And then his next door neighbor Zach. You see how I allow my fingers to kind of guide my eyes? You know your neighbor Mark over there, right? And then Zach. Now what that does is, we'll preface. So our goal is, through our body language, we want to attack the subconscious mind of our prospect. Have you ever spoken to someone and you kind of start mimicking their actions? If they lean back on the wall, you lean back on the wall. If they cross their arms, for some reason you want to cross your arms. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. The reason why is people want to be like the people they're around. That's why we tend to emulate the people that we spend the most time with. okay? I know you know what I'm talking about now. So what we want to do is we want to find ways to help, I don't want to use the word control, we want to find ways to help control people subconsciously through our body language, okay? So when we knock on the door and we're very confident, people are already drawn towards us, and now we're going to use our body language just as add on to that. So when I break eye contact, then customer is going to break eye contact. When I allow these slow movements, it allows the customer to follow along with what I'm doing, and I'm in control of them, okay? So, slow, controlled, planned. Now, things that we want to do for open body language, okay? One thing I've mentioned a couple times is eye contact. Now, the crazy thing about eye contact is there's actually a ratio of when to maintain eye contact and when to break eye contact. And that's actually an 80-20 principle. 80% of the time we want to maintain eye contact, 20% of the time we want to break eye contact. Now, whenever we break eye contact, it's always with a purpose. If I'm talking to you right now, and I'm like, hey, I'm Joe with National Home Warranty, your neighbors have been dealing a lot with plumbing issues in the neighborhood. See how I broke eye contact? The reason why was because I was looking at my iPad. Or another way would be if I'm talking to the neighbors. Hey, I'm Joe with National Home Warranty. You know your neighbors Zach and Cody, right? I broke eye contact because I was looking at the neighbors. I want their eyes to follow where my eyes are looking at, okay? Another thing, well, it had to be with any kind of gestures. Now, we already talked about these. Gestures would be like pointing with your hands, with your arms, with like a pen or anything. Those are all gestures. All of those want to be very open, and they want to be slow and controlled. So when I point, very open, I extend my arm. If I just barely leave it out, kind of like a dinosaur, it doesn't show confidence. It shows that I'm still closed off a little bit. So it's very open, it's very controlled. You know Zach and Johnson, right? Makes sense? Cool. Now the other thing is head nods. Now head nods are huge, and we're going to talk about head nods more in a later video. But quick little teaser, head nods are really cool because it gets the customer to agree with you. So the way you use them is whenever I want the customer to agree with me, I do a head nod. Like for example, you like pepperoni pizza, right? You like your boss, Mark, right? Head nod, okay? I'm attacking them subconsciously.